Hey everyone, it's Retro Geek again. Thank you for joining me for this video. As you can tell from the title card, we're going to talk again about the Nintendo Switch Online, but this time, um, I might have some photos up, or just some mock-ups or whatever. But um, I don't have any evidence of this. I don't have it from uh, articles or anything. But I want to talk about what I ideally want from the Nintendo Switch Online. I feel like now's a good time with all these rumors jumping around about the Game Boy Advance and stuff, and just to talk about it. That being said, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So at any point in time, you're welcome to put your comments down in the comment section. Just to kind of, hey, what do you think about my ideas about this, or what do you want to see? What games do you want? What would make the value proposition of getting the Nintendo Switch Online to the point to where you would want to get it? Because here is where it gets a little bit weird for me. Is this is going to be more of like what I want, so it's more like speculation and just a dream app kind of scenario. There's no actual evidence of this, but since people are talking about the fact that GameCube might be coming, the fact that Game Boy Advance might be coming, I wanted to talk about what I wanted to see from the Nintendo Switch Online app. Just sort of, hey, just in case this happens to come true, this is something that I've already kind of like talked about and called and said, well, yeah, those are good ideas, and those are ideas that I've already kind of been thrown out there. And I kind of have hinted about it in the past before with other podcasts or videos, whatever you want to call this. And before we get into that, I do want to apologize that I don't have any video today. I do have a camera that I found, but it's coming up as a white display. Like, I think it's broken. So I need to see about finding my other one and testing it out before I do full-blown video, or I might just end up just going to my phone again. But I do like being able to edit on my computer. That's why I'm trying to do it on here. But that being said, I've taken up enough of your time, over 2.5 minutes just babbling on. Let's go ahead and get into today's topic, shall we? So, we're going to talk about Nintendo Switch Online, obviously. And we already know that we have, the NES, we have the Super Nintendo, and we have the N64. And we have two different tiers. Now, this is just what I want. And I understand the reasons why, again, but I'm going to kind of go back and forth as far as why I understand why they have it the way they have it, but also kind of rebuke that and say, look, this is the reason why it doesn't need to be like that. So, we have these different apps set up for people that want them. So if you just want NES games, you just download the NES app. If you want just Super Nintendo games, you download just the Super Nintendo app. Same thing with the expansion pass. You have with the expansion pack, N64, and Genesis games. If you don't care about Genesis games, you just download the N64 app. But what I want to see first is a completely unified Nintendo Switch Online, completely unified Nintendo Switch Online app. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to bring this picture up here, is if you see the Nintendo Online app here, instead of having it like this, where it's Game Boy Advance, NES, Super Nintendo, 64, blah blah, and you have 12 something different programs going, it's just one app right here, one app. And when you go in there, anybody that's gone in there knows that it has everything right there. Like, it has all the games listed, it has the consoles, it has everything right there that you can get access to, and then it just launches whatever app. It launches the NES app, it launches the N64 app. What I think would be beneficial is maybe if you want to have it be cloud streaming, so it's quicker to access it. I don't know how that would work. That's on Nintendo's back end part. But I would love to just see it to where it's just like Game Pass. When you go into Game Pass, all the games are listed right there. all of them. Whether you look for them alphabetically, whether you search for them, they're all listed right there, and you just download it or you just start streaming it. That's what I said. If Nintendo wants to stream it, that's fine. You can just stream it. If you want it to still be an app that's off in the background and it launches that and launches all the NES games, that's fine. But ideally, what I would love to see is just one unified app that has everything instead of it being separate. So that way, it's almost like Netflix. Like you go in there and there's a little card on the side that you click on, and it brings up NES, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube. It brings up all the consoles that Nintendo adds, which means they continue to just add to that one app instead of having to come out with different apps. And you just launch it. Whether, again, you just stream it, or they say, okay, cool, you got to download the app, but then the game launches directly from it. Because right now, what's annoying is when I go to the NSO app, and then, okay, I want to launch this game. Oh, it hasn't loaded in a while, or you got to update the NES app, and then you got to go to it and choose the game from it. It would just be good if it just launched directly from that one spot. And that way, again, they just continue to update that. They want to add in GameCube games, they want to add in Wii games down the road, that's fine. You just update that one app. So that's one of the first things that I want to see. Another thing that I want to see is just because I think they need to have more functionality out of the actual app itself, the Nintendo Switch online app that you use for voice chatting. One thing that I do want to see is, like Game Pass also has an app for it, is I want there to be an app that lets me get to my NSO stuff. Just to see, hey, these new games have launched. Do you want to go ahead and just download this app and have it ready in the background? You know, absolutely nothing wrong with having more functionality with that app, because right now it is ridiculously low on what you can use that app for. There's really no point in even having it. But one of the things that I think would also help is, again, this is something that's kind of been talked about before. I've seen it in different podcasts and different videos, is just adding more games down the road. Because, hey, if you come out with, I don't know, a year's worth of games, like, you get 100 plus games on there, you get 120 games, I don't know, let's just say that. Every few months you can swap them out for others. So that way it's like a rotating thing. It keeps people coming back to the app. Because what makes me come back to the SNES app is like, hey, they added in Earthbound. You know, when you get to a finite point, you say these are all the N64 games that are ever going to come out. Well, then I have a reason to go back to it. But you want me to revisit these older games? That's perfectly fine. Rotate it out. Like if we get GameCube for an example, maybe you have Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. And it's on there for like 2 or 3 months to get people to play it, but then you no longer pay the licensing fee for it or whatever, and so it's gone. But it comes back like every year, like on the anniversary or whatever. A good example is Luigi's Mansion. Could be a game that stays in the NSO if it comes to that, if it does have a GameCube portion of it. But it can come out maybe for October, November. It's like a Halloween thing. And then it goes away and it comes back every year. That way it gives people something to look forward to. It doesn't take up too much space on your app. You just keep like the big hitters, like the big hitters. But also I think that the idea of, again, keeping your whole backlog on there is very important. Very important. Because then that way it becomes a service to deal with, because you know what you're going to get. Like again, with Game Pass, we know exactly what we're going to get. We're going to get games day and date, if not real soon after they launch on Xbox. And the way that it seems like, again, we have to wait till it actually comes out to see what it's like. But when the new PlayStation Plus launches, just based upon the fact they have PS1, PS2, PS3, PSP, PS4, that sounds like they're going to have a good majority of games that you have access to, that you can play at any time. Whereas with NSO, we don't know. So if you can be more clear about what it is that you want, or what it is you're going to do, I should say, with the NSO, that you're going to, every month you're going to get at least 2 games. That becomes like PlayStation Plus. That becomes like Xbox game. That becomes like Xbox Live. It's like, hey, we know we're gonna get at least these 2 games every month. At least 2. There might be older titles. There might be newer titles. If you decide to put in Wii, then maybe you get like, hey, here is a, not a brand new game, but here is a new Wii game that hasn't been on the service before. Add it in. Go ahead and get it now. And I also think that continuing to throw your backlog in there is helpful for down the road, because that way, in a way, it surpasses the Virtual Console, because the Virtual Console never had GameCube. The Virtual Console never at once seemed to tickle the idea of backwards compatibility with every single system. So again, 3DS, DS. I don't know how you make those work. I don't know how you make the 3DS work, but it's possible. I mean, I've seen emulators that had the second screen up in the corner, and I have played games that have been like remasters of DS games that simply use the Joy-Con pointing at the screen, and you hold down, like, I think ZR or whatever, and it imitates the tapping of the screen. So yeah, it's possible that you could do something with it. It's very much possible you could just simply do stuff with, like, hey, the touchscreen is basically like the right stick, so you just substitute it for the right stick. I don't know. That's up to Nintendo's back end to figure it out, but I'm just giving an example of how that would be a good idea to work. And again, it gives people something to look forward to, because when Switch 2 comes out, the inevitable next-gen console for Nintendo, whatever it's called, you can kind of know, well, they're going to bring over Switch games eventually. It might be the next one, like Switch 3 for an example, but you'll eventually get Switch games on there, because then you know that any Wii U games that were missed might be coming over to play. This is just an example. I don't know how far back Nintendo wants to go, but I'm saying they have the technology right there. Like, the Switch still has, gyroscopic technologies. It still has, technically that is motion controls, gyroscope, but it has all these functionalities in there to where you could basically bring over Wii and DS games if you wanted to. You could easily throw out some kind of an of an app, or even come up with a peripheral that allows people to have a microphone so they can play games like maybe Hey You Pikachu, for an example. I'm just throwing that out there. That's a weird game to include, but you could include it. And so yeah, stuff like that I think is just ideally what this needs. I'm not asking for too much. I'm not saying, oh, they got to throw in every single game they've ever owned at any point in time. No, because there's over 1,000 something NES games alone. Like, there would just be too many to bring over. But I'm saying that it would be nice to see a rotation. And again, like I've talked about in other videos, to use this to your advantage. To very clearly use this for your advantage. Like, do you know one way to get people to subscribe to an expansion pack is if it's including GameCube and Wii, and you are basically out there like, hey, we know you want to play Metroid Prime 4 really, really bad. And we apologize that it hasn't come out yet, but say they come out with a launch date for it, and they say, hey, this is going to come out in June of 2024, but in the meantime, here's Metroid Prime 1 and 2 for GameCube, and 3 for the Wii, so you can go back and play the trilogy again. Or, like I talked about before, I believe previously, where, like, if Dread came out, right, and they're like, look, we know you can't wait to play Metroid Dread, and it's coming out said date, but here's every single Metroid game. So you can only do one, and you can do Super Metroid through the NES and SNES, but then they had Game Boy on there. You could play Metroid 2, and if they had GBA in there, Metroid 4, otherwise known as Metroid Fusion. Here you go. You're caught up on the story before Dread. And you have people subscribing to your app because that's the only place they can play it currently. And again, even if it's just a cloud version, even if it's just something that you download from the cloud, you have to play it on good Wi-Fi, that's fine. If you want to keep it as an app, that works even better, because then it's just offline and people can just simply go to the app and maybe download it. So it's almost like a virtual console thing. I don't know. Again, that's for Nintendo logistics to mess around with, but it almost does seem like you're just playing this offline anyway, because I don't even know if you can play these apps offline. Like, I don't think you can play the NES app offline because it has to verify that you're, an NSO member. So I doubt that. But yeah, that's just the kind of stuff that I want to see. I really think that Nintendo needs to go all in at this point. And if they want to throw in another tier that's like $120 a year or $10 a month, that would be great. Because then, I'm already going to be spending about $120 a year anyway with PlayStation Plus, right? And I'm spending what, $180 a year? 15 times 12. I think that's right. For Game Pass Ultimate, why wouldn't I just go ahead and give you an extra $10 a month? Especially if you have a yearly option. Just say, look, just drop $120 a year for family or something like that, and maybe, I don't know, 80, 90. I don't know what pricing you want to do. But then that makes the NSO a bigger value than what it is now. And look, I might not even use it. Okay, I might not even use it because, like I said before, I'm a retro gamer. I am a collector. I have the GameCube already. I have N64 already. I have every single Nintendo console. Every single PlayStation console. Every single Xbox. I'm working on getting all the Sega consoles. Like, I have these older systems anyway, but the convenience factor of it alone would be interesting for me. If I could go in and say, hey, here are not only these GameCube games that you played, but now I can share them with my children on one app. So rather than having to have my children go through a learning curve to learn Mario 64, I can just simply play it on the N64, and my children can play it with the Switch controllers that they're already comfortable with. Why wouldn't I do that? Same thing with GameCube. Hey, my oldest child loves Zelda like I do. Go ahead and play Wind Waker. Try it for the first time. Let me watch you play Wind Waker and experience the same kind of joy that I had when I played it. Instead of having me pull out and go through this troublesome hookup process of I have to go through an HDMI adapter to the RGB connection of the GameCube, then connect that to power, and then connect controllers. And yeah, sure, it's fine. I'm playing it authentically, and that's good for someone like me. I don't mind that. I have dedicated TVs for older consoles, but for my child, they might not want to go through all that. And that's the convenience factor of it. And yeah, then it seems like it's got more value because now we know for sure exactly where you're going to go with NSO and the expansion pack. And it makes me feel more confident and I should get it. Because then I know that at the end of the day, not only are we going to be getting new games every month, at least two. They could be NES, they could be GameCube, they could be GBA, they could be DS. We don't know what they're going to be, but there's going to be at least two new ones. But even if you cycle through them and say, okay, these older ones have to go, but they'll be back, then it can just be, again, something that we look forward to. And this app is always shuffling and always rotating, and we know that you're going to continue to support it down the road. Because, again, one of my concerns from the beginning was always, is NSO going to be relevant down the road in a year or two, 3 years, 4 years? Whenever they move on to the next console, because again, we've had Virtual Console before on the Wii. We had to buy the games again on Wii U. Then they dropped the Virtual Console, and if they had it a la carte again, or they had Virtual Console again, you have to buy those games again. But if NSO continues to be the kind of thing where, you're going to name all your systems Switch from now on, and it's going to carry over, and these games are just simply on a server somewhere, and all you have to do is have this one app. This one app that's down here in the bottom left corner of my system, then yeah, I know that those games are going to not go anywhere, and essentially they're mine for as long as I am subscribed. which is all that I'm asking for, because hey, that's more than what I get now, especially from PlayStation now, where I've literally lost games because Sony decided to pull them from the server. So, sorry for being long-winded about that. I just wanted to get that off my chest and discuss it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and hopefully next time I'll be on camera and we're going to talk about Legend of Zelda. I have a idea, a huge, mind-blowing idea, as far as how Zelda probably should play on the Switch. I might save it for down the road when we're closer to the actual game being launched and we know more about it and have the name. But I do have an idea, and yeah, just based upon Twitter feeds and all that stuff like that. But one thing before I let you go that I did forget to mention in this video, and I apologize for dragging this out for so long, is that it also works in the way that the original systems worked. So for an example, transfer pack. If you have GBA, yes, you can probably play Pokemon on there, but suppose they get Perfect Dark for N64, and then they get Perfect Dark for the Game Boy. You can transfer that content back and forth. Same thing with, like we're talking about now with Mario Golf, and how you were losing characters because they didn't have, I think, a GBA hooked up to it or something, or whatever. You didn't have the system transferred. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So that could easily be the kind of thing where, you know, if you have the Game Boy version or the Game Boy Advance version of a game, if there's any data that comes over as an NSO subscriber, you just get that data automatically. I don't know, that's just an idea, guys, but I'm going to go ahead and end this now because I've taken this way too long, and I'm sorry. But make sure you put your thoughts in the comments down below. Love to hear what you guys have to say. I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good one.